Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to look at an insane puzzle. Just take a second and glance at this position. There are two queens on board. There are 4 pawns for white that are just getting ready to promote. 2 rooks for black, and these pawns are very advanced, and white's king is in a very vulnerable position. Your job here is to find the next best move. I don't want to give away the result here, but it is insane. So let me just quickly go through a couple of moves. Maybe I'll give you another 10 seconds or so to think about this before I start talking about it. But my advice to you would be calculate as much as you possibly can. Okay, while you're thinking about that, let me quickly encourage you to also subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, and we've been doing a great job recently, so more subscribers, more likes, all that stuff helps out so much. Okay, let's get to the position here. So the first thing you might be tempted to do is you might say, I can just push this pawn. Hey, that's mate, right? No, because the bishop can block, and not only is it blocking, it's producing a check, and that's going to lead to mate in just a couple of moves. After that bishop move, the queen has to interpose, and that gives me enough for this b2 mate, because this queen was currently pinning the pawn. So make sure you don't make that first mistake. That's a pretty easy thing to miss. Now let's talk about what else you maybe thought. So maybe you thought, okay, instead of promoting right away, maybe I'll just sack the queen for the b pawn, or maybe I'll take the rook. All that stuff you have to be careful about because this b pawn is going down the board. That would be mate. And the same idea goes if you take with this rook, it's not mate this way, instead it's mate this way. So a lot of these first moves, very challenging to find. Okay, so what is the first move? We'll get there in a second. I want to show this line. Queen takes b3. I looked at this because I thought maybe you can sacrifice and get a perpetual check. You can't, because if you go promote, now the bishop interposes on this diagonal. And again, that's with check with the h1 rook, which means all you have to do is interpose, and that's going to be mate. So what other first move would you think? If you make any other kind of promotion, clearly you just lose to c1 equals queen. And it doesn't look like you can cover all of these things. If you want to maybe get here to cover this, remember, the bishop here is going to move. So that's check. And what happens? The queen has to drop in. And important to note, this bishop is pinning. So this queen cannot interpose. And this is a cool mate because the bishop is keeping the queen tied down, we'll say. Okay, so what is the first move? So if you spotted this first move, you are already a superstar in my eyes because this is insane. The first move is queen to a4. Check. Okay. Remember, the pawns are going down the board, right? So you can't take this. So you might say, wait a second. The king just takes this. What's the problem? Well, now it's important to note that the queen is on a4. So if you go to do this kind of thing, again, that fails. Let's make sure we keep remembering that this bishop is not letting us do anything on the a file. But instead, the reason why the king being here is so important is now it is visible from e8, which means I can queen with check. Great, well I just had 2 queens on the board anyway, so what's the difference? So let's just look at a couple of variations here. The king has a few options. They can go up the board, they can go to b4, stay on the same 4th rank, or they can go to a3. So the worst thing to do would be go into the line of fire like this, because that's just gonna let white in. So queen c3 check is a good way to start. King b6. Oh, yeah, that's right. The pawns are going this way. And b8 equals queen. Yeah, this is too much. King a6, queen a4 is mate. Yeah, that's a nice mate. Look at this. That's insane. So you don't go up the board. And I think your intuition probably knows that. You don't want to take your king and go into the battle here. Okay, what if you go king b4? Very similar. Queen on e goes to e1, right? Because this queen could also go to e1. And then king a4, it's going to be very similar. Now you can promote, by the way, because now if the bishop interposes, it is no longer check because the queen is here. Important detail. But I think you get the idea here. This is going to be mate. I don't have to show every single line. It's going to be mate. This one will be mate with 4 queens on the board. So pretty sweet. That is mate. Look at that. The queens are all cutting through. This one's not really contributing, but it still looks nice. Okay, so the best resistance then is after I play pawn promotes to e8, your best move is king a3. Now in this position, it is still not trivial. The best move, I'm going to give away the result in just a moment, the best move, the only move that draws, is queen takes b3 check. Now you might say, okay, again, I'm not really in a position to do anything else. I have to take this. Oops, like that is what I was trying to do. And after that, what's next? Do you promote? Remember, you can't promote because, again, this bishop is cutting across and that's going to be mate. In this case, the queen interposes, it's still mate. It doesn't matter. So you can't get away with promoting. So what do? Now, there's a whole different phase of the puzzle. Now you have to find a series of very precise checks so that the checks avoid bishop moves. Because if the bishop moves, this rook is going to win, and it's not a good time. So, queen b5 check. Okay, the king has 2 options, a3, c3. They're pretty much equivalent. Let's just look at a3 first. So, king a3, queen a5 check, and then you got to go back. And of course, white wants to repeat. So you don't really go to a3. Okay, c3. So what do you do here? Do you check, I don't know, do you check here? Well, remember, you have to think about it just a move or two in advance. If I go to e5, now this bishop can interpose, right? Do you see the problem that this is? The problem is that you have to generate a check, but you have to do it in such a way where the bishop can't interpose. Same problem here. You check me here, bishop c5 check. So where is the next check? See if you can find the next check here. It's not easy. Well, queen b2 is what the computer is suggesting. Also queen a5. There are a couple ways to win it, a couple ways to draw it, but it takes a lot of care. Okay, now the king is going to start running for the hills here, and you have to figure out what to do in all these cases. And all of them, you have to be very precise. If they play to d3, you can get away with queen b5. Now you're checking, but remember, you're not checking in a way like this so that their bishop can block. That's the key detail. So what if they just keep running toward the rooks? Won't there eventually be a way where they can get maybe here and play that? You might wonder that. I wonder that. But no. Eventually, surprisingly, you can actually get away with a couple of better moves. You can get away with, for example, in this position, queen c4. Look at that move. Come on. That's like the quietest move. You're walking into check, but you just step up. And the reason why you go to c4 is because this pawn wants to promote. You don't want that to happen. So if they check you, you're actually winning here. Queen b2, and it says white is +6. Isn't that ridiculous? The best move for black in this position is rook g2. Yeah, because a human's finding that. Unless it's just me, I feel like that's so hard to find. So just to give you a sample of what it's like, it is nuts. You can pick wherever you want to go, but they're all going to result in the same idea. Just for example, this position, instead of going to d3, going to d2, the best move is a8 equals queen. Like, what? This is ridiculous. You're walking into a check on d4, which pins the queen and is allowing this to promote soon. But look at this, just so calmly. King a2. And what do? They take? What do? Queen d8. You don't want to take this bishop. And then the king has to run away. If not, if it goes this way, you just check it. You keep checking the king. And the king cannot escape the checks. That is the main idea behind this entire puzzle. It is super cool. If you want to dig deeper into the variations, there are many of them because it's perpetual check. So you're going to have to just check, check, check. Feel free to mess with the position. It'll be in the description. But I really wanted to show this. I think it's so cool. This starting position really caught my eye because this first move, Queen A4, is just a showstopper. But yeah, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe. As I mentioned in the beginning, it helps us out so much. We've already given almost $1,000 to charity, so a lot of thank yous are welcome to the community. I really appreciate all the support. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.